Hi, everyone. Welcome to our latest episode of JKL Media Pop Culture Edition. We're going to talk about this is my choice this week, and I picked Barbie, which you may think is a controversial choice for us. There are reasons why I picked it, and it's not just about feminism for me. And I also wanted to get, I don't know, thoughts and all that from people from different walks of life, as it were.
Two old
And
guys.
two old guys, exactly. Um,
Two old white guys.
yeah. Lou was just talking about who didn't want to see it with him. And I have to tell you, I asked my husband to watch it with me as well. He said yes initially, and then he conveniently was sleeping when I wanted to watch it. So I'm assuming that was a no. However, I will say, if you're listening to this, and I hope you are, watch it. I think it's worth a watch. It's not your typical Barbie story. And I was just telling Lou, I'm not a Barbie person. I played with spaceman toys growing up. I didn't have an interest in all the girly kind of things. I'm going to be really interested to see what we talk about, what direction this goes in. I have some talking points, but we'll probably stray from that as is our wont. So I'm going to get some general feelings from each of you before we jump in. So I'll start with you, Lou.
Oh, you just can't wait, can you?
No, I can't.
I'm glad I watched this movie.
Hmm, awesome. And Jesse, who had watched it before I proposed it, Lou had not.
Yeah, I try to watch. I don't always make it to the theater. In fact, I don't go to a lot of movies anymore in the theater, just partly because of money, partly because of just convenience. So I had Linda wanted to see Oppenheimer at the theater, so we went and saw that. And I do an episode about it in a minute because I really there's a lot to be liked about this. So I did not see Barbie till it was on Max, but once it did, I knew I wanted to watch it, and I watched it and I liked it. I don't love it, but I liked it, and I'm glad I saw it. And then to pull back the curtain, last week when Karen mentioned we were going to do this, she suggested on the website there is a way to hear it from the director's commentary. And that is what I did this week. I watched it with the commentary, really enjoyed that a great deal as too. And in fact, I talk about someone I'd want to have as a guest on our podcast to talk about anything. She was very interesting, the
Yeah,
director.
Greta
So
Gerwig
yeah,
is
Greta Gerwig. But yeah,
very
I
interesting.
I was really happy, and this was different than I thought it was going to be. And I say that as a compliment. It just was really nice. I liked it.
Yeah, to me, when I first heard about this movie, and this is before I heard about directing, starring, any of that, I thought, oh, come on, really? A live action Barbie movie? Why do we want that? And I can see where people would malign that, but now having watched it, and it was all over Max when it came to Max, the whole page was pink. And so I said, okay, fine, I'll watch it. You're making me watch it. And after I was done and there were tears in my eyes, I thought, okay, you got me. I can't believe it. And then I watched the commentary as well, and that added another dimension to it. I really do think that this is a movie worth watching. It was worth nominations. It's worth talking about, I feel. So I'm glad you guys actually enjoyed it or are glad you watched it, whichever that is, if it's both. So I guess we'll jump into some talking points. Let's see. So I have a document pulled up that has talking points in it, and I may bring up some of these. I may just riff on things, but I think the main takeaway from this is the differences between men and women. That's one of the huge themes of this book. And in this case, it's the differences in a fictional world and a real world. where it's so completely turned on its head. And one of the things that I love about this movie is that not only does it pass the Bechdel test, it is a shining example of a movie that passes the Bechdel test. It may actually fall victim to the reverse Bechdel test, where the men
I was
talk
going to ask
about
if there's a name for that because
it's called the reverse Bechdel test.
okay, because it
And
fails that.
it fails spectacularly there. However, I have to say, with the amount of movies, and it is
Turnabout is fair
about,
play.
right, it is about 70% of movies that do not pass the Bechdel test. And some of that 30% only passes because there are hardly any females in it. I feel, hey, that's fine with me. I honestly don't care. I think it's played for laughs that Ken is dependent on Barbie because that's how the toy works, that it's Barbie centric and Ken is the offshoot. One of the things I thought was novel is that it showed through all the differences in every Barbie how diverse our society is. And I'm hoping I'm not reading too much into these things, but it showed that there's a disco Barbie, there's a pregnant Barbie, there's one that you can change, and that skipper exists. Every toy that they show in this movie really existed at one point. So the growing up skipper where you move her arm and her boobs get bigger is real. The Sugar's daddy is
Yes.
also real.
Mhm.
Alan is real. So I love that they give us all those perspectives and then they invert that to show that, yeah, everyone's different in the real world, but the Barbie differences are ridiculous. And, that we're much more diverse and specialized than that. I want to know how you guys feel about how this challenges roles in general, gender roles, what you think about the classes and the roles specified in this movie. So who wants to go first?
So I'll start. One, I think I'm not going to be surprising anyone, but one of the closing scene where you talk about you can't win, where all the different, you have to be humble yet arrogant and everything, brought me back to the first time I'd ever noticed this was my sister-in-law, Robin, said, kids can't win. I did the crooked head that like a dog or a cat does. Yeah. And she said, if you're in the kitchen and your child comes up and says, Mom, I'm hungry, you're like, okay, can you not see I'm busy? I'm doing stuff. So then when you go sit down and they go, hey, Mom, I'm hungry. I was just in the kitchen. Why didn't you ask me what it was? One of my favorite, and you can Google this if you are bored, but a few years ago, Bruce Springsteen, take a drink, was at the South by Southwest Music Festival and Arts Festival in Austin, and he did a speech that talked about the dynamics. You need to be humble, yet you need to be arrogant to be a rock star. You have to do both sides. And I love that idea because we do set unrealistic expectations on not just women, but everyone in total. And I don't know if you guys saw, but they had a little fun with that, with the discussion of being an Oscar host and how that's unwinnable. And he goes, and so it makes me almost as bad as it's almost as hard as being Oscar host as being a woman. They go, no, they kind of played it funny, but it was really good. So I love this idea of I bought a ticket coming up this summer to see Donny Osmond.
Oh, awesome.
I am going to see Donny Osmond.
With your wife?
One of my best, no, she had no interest in going.
Oh.
So I am
How
going
about Marie?
I'm going to see Donny by myself.
Oh my goodness.
And one of my best friends says, tell no one this. and if someone asks, lie.
Oh, come on.
And because I wanted to be Keith Partridge, I wanted to be Donny Osmond when I was a kid. And I am ecstatic about I bought Teen Beat magazines because I wanted to read about Donny Osmond. I wanted to read about
Hmm.
Keith Partridge. And it was 100% for a woman audience. And I feel bad that I'm not supposed to be reading these, but I was. I love David
Yeah.
Cassidy. I love Donny Osmond. I wanted to be them. They seemed like the coolest guys in the world. I was not hip enough to be reading Rolling Stone
This is so
and
Jesse.
wanting to
Yeah.
be to be Keith Richards or Mick Jagger or anyone. I didn't even want to be Bruce Springsteen. I wanted to be Donny Osmond. And so the idea that's why in this movie, the idea I love her daughter when she says, no, Barbies are a horrible thing. And he give all the
Hmm.
reasons why, even though it was, and then I'll get off my rant. Just recently, I worked for a company that ended up being sold to a different company. And the reason our previous owner said, I want to give everyone an opportunity because we're a smaller company. By being bought by this bigger company, there will be more opportunity for everyone. And but because we were bought from this big company, we lost our culture. They ended up having to, there wasn't a place for me. And people who you were hoping to find other opportunities in this newer company ended up leaving because they didn't want to work. For the idea, I want to give people a chance to not just play with baby dolls, but adult dolls, to change clothes like you did paper dolls, actually come back and bite you in the butt and does exactly what you didn't want it to do, I think is interesting. Okay, end of rant.
I think you got my girliness because I did read Rolling Stone in back all the way to junior high because of all the people that were in it. I did not read Teen Beat. My across the street neighbor, who was my best friend growing up, hi Debbie Umbaugh, she had posters up of like the Bee Gees and Barry Gibb and all these everybody. And I'm pulling a blank right now. As you can see, that was my thought growing up, that I didn't even care about all those heartthrob Scott Baio. I'll put that out there. I thought, man, they are idiots. I like the people that go to the moon. I like the people that do something that I feel proud of. And musicians were part of that because they actually delivered a message where the Partridges didn't really do that. Yeah, I get it that we all had different priorities. And like I said, not a Barbie girl at all growing up. Okay, Lou.
I'm I was never a Danny or a Keith, oh God, well, Keith
Partridge.
Cassidy, David Cassidy, sorry, Donny Osmond kind of guy. I always saw myself more as a Danny Partridge kind of guy or a Richie
Oh yeah.
Cunningham kind of guy. So when
Yep.
I was watching this movie, I was the Alan character in this movie. So that's my perspective that I'm coming from.
I love that.
I'm an old white guy. Barbie obviously has been around as I think longer than I have, but it's always been in my life. But it was never anything that interested me. And I'm looking at the box office for this movie, and I'm just blown away that this thing made $1.4 billion. Like
Yep.
I cannot fathom that. But I think that's just more a testament to my perspective than anything else, because obviously this struck a chord with a wide audience. But man, I just can't believe that this movie made that much money. That's just the way the world goes. Like the most interesting character for me in this movie was Alan, and I actually wish he had more to do in this movie because the high Barbie stuff got old pretty quick for me. Like I got the idea after the first 2 minutes, okay. And I'm not a fan of musicals, so anytime it broke out into song and dance, I was just like, okay, let's get going here. Let's get back to the story. Even though I know they're telling the story through the songs, blah blah blah, but so this is just not really my kind of movie from that perspective. However, I do think that it was well directed, well produced, technically excellent. I thought the standout actor in this movie was Ryan Gosling. I thought he
Mm.
was fantastic. I actually found Margot Robbie bland, but that's the character too, right? The stereotypical Barbie. So I didn't really find her character that interesting. Um, I appreciated the social. I appreciated that this movie took what could have been a pretty trite experience and turned it into a pretty interesting social commentary. I think it did the social commentary better in the first half of the movie than it did in the back half. And I really think it fell apart on two key points, which I'll get into later. But overall, I enjoyed it. It's not something that I ever need to watch again. However, once was enough for me. But it 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 really surprised me that how much depth it had to it, considering my prejudice against this kind of movie and the fact that it's based on a toy, because we've seen so many movies based on toy franchises, cartoon franchises that are just as flatter, if not flatter, than the source material. So this one definitely had a much higher aim for what it was trying to achieve, and it had some good story lessons in it. I think, and I'll throw this back to you, Karen. I think the most interesting thing to me was how the Barbies resolved their dilemma with trying to get back their society is where the one character, the mom, I don't know what her name was anymore, but she had this like long dialogue where she just basically summed up the female experience in the human race, and that was started snapping all the Barbies out of their issue. I don't think that approach would work with men. I think they would need some sort of slap in the face or some sort of physical jolt to their system to get them out of it. And maybe this is my poor view of the world. Whereas I really do think if women talk to each other, they can really change each other's minds, where I don't think that works nearly as well with men. So that was one of the most interesting aspects. I'm curious how you view that. Is that something that you agree with, or you think that I'm just a male
No,
chauvinist
I
source?
do. I agree with that 100%. I also feel like society as a whole, it's hard to get things done with just words.
Hmm.
But I do feel like one-on-one, females tend to be more successful expressing themselves with just words and emotions, where men are more like grunt, let's duke it out, fight club kind of thing. At least that's my view of things. I do feel like men are much more the West Side Story kind of snapping with the sharks and the
Yeah.
jets. And I think that women can, and again, this is coming from the point of view of a woman, but we tend to be more cerebral when it comes to making an argument about something. Like, okay, I'm not going to go into how my husband and I have arguments, but there is a huge difference between how I argue and how he argues. And I grew up with two brothers who were older than me, and it was difficult in my household to resolve any kind of arguments with them. But yeah, from my perspective, I see what you're saying, and I agree with it. I do think that it wouldn't have been as successful with the Kens to have this kind of speech and having them snap out of it. I
Hmm.
agree. Do you
Yeah,
have
I
more?
think, yeah, go ahead.
No, I think I answered your question though, right?
Okay, yeah, you
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
Yeah, one of the things, as I said though, that really struck with me because of the hypocrisy we treat people we build them up to knock them down.
To make
And
ourselves feel better.
yeah, and yeah, I am not a fan of the stereotypical Will Ferrell movies. Once again, that
Hmm.
shows I don't have the guy gene on that. I don't particularly like Anchorman. I don't like other movies where they just play obnoxious jerks. Um,
Blasphemy.
yeah, I know, and
Bring up old school. That's fine, but
yeah, yeah, I
don't
just
bash on my anchor man.
yeah, and
No, go
so
ahead. I'm fine.
but I do think he was perfect playing the CEO. And the idea of, I want to meet the CEO, that's me. Well, how about this chief finance officer? Me, chief market officer. And they're all guys.
Yep.
Um,
White guys again, where
yeah. And yes, that may make us woke, But the reality is, it is a little interesting that a company in this world that is marketing to women are, once again, we have men telling what women want and making that decision.
Yep.
And there is that connects to a lot of stuff that goes on in the real world.
Welcome to the real world for me,
Exactly.
at least.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so let's talk. You mentioned Ryan Gosling. I tend to agree with you. I think there were other standout roles. I bring up Rhea Perlman as an example, who, as an actress, I thought she's really good. But in this movie, it really upped my respect for her. Not that I didn't have respect, but you know what I'm saying. I feel like she brought a lot to the role of Ruth. But anyway, let's go back to Ryan Gosling as Ken, and where his character could be one-dimensional, and Simu Liu as well, playing the Kens. I think they elevated what might have been a terrible role, and they had a long journey from the beginning of this episode to the end. They had an arc, and I thought that character really did go a very long way. So, Lou, you mentioned that Ryan Gosling was a standout, and I want to talk about his arc. I feel like his arc went the furthest, I think, maybe from beginning to end in the movie. And I would say that there are other standouts like Rhea Perlman, Helen Mirren, things like that. But I do agree with you that I think Ryan Gosling brought as much as he could to it, and it ended up being an incredible performance. What do you guys think about his arc in this movie, or the Kens, whatever you want to? I think we should maybe talk about him in specific, but if there's any general points about the Kens, that would be good too.
So one of the things I adored is that on the credits, they just say Barbie Ken versus President Barbie, Writer Barbie, Dr. Barbie. I love that. One of the things that Lou mentioned, and I'll go back to Ken, is Alan, right? And do love the performance from the actor who plays Alan. Yeah, Michael Cera. I am not I understand that a lot of the stuff he's been in is genius. Arrested Development is just something. Yeah,
Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah. Arrested Development, I just have not just watched that. I know it's good, but the idea that they talk about this in the commentary, that when the Alan doll came out, clothes fit me.
Right.
Like there is no...
And that was it.
Yeah, there was no other... You definitely were just an accessory, right? Ken needs to have somebody to talk to, so let's get it. Versus, I guess, G.I. Joe, right? I guess Ken and G.I. Joe can hang out. Yeah, I love the idea that this, oh my God, men rule the world, and they pick all the wrong things. Horses, and then the patriarchy, and how they don't quit everything right in Barbie world. But there is enough that is so true. Oh, you don't love The Godfather? Let me explain you why you're wrong. Oh, you don't know how to work computers? Oh, let me show you how.
Aren't you cute?
Yeah, the idea of, oh, let me show you how. Let me show you how. Let me show you how. I also love the idea that the Ryan Gosling Ken is in love with Barbie, whatever that means to him. Right? There is no chance that this is going to be a romantic Hallmark movie. And he just knows he wants her approval and love. And no matter what changes, he wants that, even though he doesn't really know what it means. Like that scene, maybe I should spend the night. And do what?
I don't
know. It's just the next scene, we're supposed to spend the night, was, I think, pretty funny. He also was really good, the actual Ryan Gosling, on the Oscars. Right, when he sang the song and he was talking about with the different, he just seemed to really embrace the idea that I'm playing this very not very smart character, but didn't make it where he's dumb. Eh, There are times when I see a character like, okay, you're just too dumb. No one could be this dumb. You're just irritating me. Speaking of, there was a Josh Brolin, I believe. Yeah, I think it was Josh. Josh is the older one, aren't? Or is it James Brolin? James Brolin is the older one, right?
Yes.
That's the dad. Yeah.
Yes.
So James Brolin was in this Hallmark movie, and he played a Texan, and he never took his cowboy hat off.
Hmm.
And I was like, that's just dumb because every if he was actually raised as a Texan, he was taught to take your hat off when you go outside. Famously, Bum Phillips did not wear his cowboy hat in the Astrodome because he said, my mama taught me you don't wear a hat indoors. The Astrodome is indoors, so therefore he did not wear a hat inside. Um, so that irritates me. This was just he doesn't understand. He doesn't understand what surfing is. He doesn't understand. I couldn't be a lifeguard. I couldn't be anything, but I know I'm in this role, but I don't really know what I'm doing. I think that's a hard acting job to do and to make it charming, where even though he might be the villain in the film, and I say that with air quotes, he's truly not. He's trying to find his own path the same way that stereotypical Barbie is trying to find her. So I really loved watching him.
Yeah, he got to play the role that most women play in movies. In his whole existence is around centers around Barbie, and how he relates to himself is totally in proportion to how she perceives him. So I thought he did a really good job with that. And there were some good sight gags with him too, like with the trying to jump into the ocean and bouncing back off. That was funny. And I'm really impressed with his singing voice. I thought he really killed that song. And I think that his journey into the real world was funny when the woman asked him for what time it was, and that made him feel really important. That's just such a little ask because nobody's ever asked him anything before. So it was, it really shows how women in movies are often portrayed like that, as not really having any agency of their own. And to see a man like that is it's painful to watch. So I commiserate with for women when they have to see so many women in movie roles play that kind of role. I enjoyed his angst in Barbie World when the movie starts. I enjoyed his exploration of the real world. Once he gets back to Barbie World, it's okay. You made your point in those first two-thirds of the movie. The last third of the movie, it was just felt more like he's less of a character now, and now he's just fulfilling a plot requirement to have a conflict. So I wasn't really too crazy about the stuff that he did there. He had some nice sight gags with a coat. With I guess it was supposed to be an homage to Rocky, because I think they showed
Right.
a picture of Sylvester Stallone wearing the very same thing, unless
Yeah.
it was somebody else.
No, it
So
was.
that was okay. But the whole fight thing between the Barbies was so I didn't really like that, and I just think generally the third act is not as strong as the first two acts. And there's a bit of not just related, not specific to his character, but in general, I think the movie's about 10, 15 minutes too long. So there's that issue as well. But again, as with most movies or whatever, the actors are just doing what they're working with what they're given. They can't control the narrative. So I don't blame, I don't think his performance faltered or anything like that. I just don't think that the writing was up to snuff in the third act as it was in the first two.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think he made the most of what he was given.
Yeah.
And I think the writing was pretty strong. I do tend to agree with you that some of that could have been covered with a montage almost. Barbie didn't have to go to the OBGYN at the end. It could have just been a montage of her doing girl stuff in real life. But that's just me. Um, I think Ryan Gosling was definitely a standout in this. And you brought up also what's his name? Michael Cera?
Yeah. Two good Canadian kids, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
Just saying.
Uh, right now, he's in a series of commercial for, I think it's Oil of Olay. They have a product called CeraVe,
Okay.
and
Oh,
he's
yes, I saw
talking.
that. Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, he's talking about Sarah, and I feel like he's a better actor than what we give him credit for. I saw smatterings of Arrested Development, but I did see Scott Pilgrim, and I think he was incredibly good in that. And there is mention of, Greta mentions that when he is trying to distract the construction Kens from following Gloria and her daughter, that he has like this fight scene in the background. And the fact that he had all that kind of experience from Scott Pilgrim really came in handy. And when I think of Michael Cera, I do not think of fight scenes. That's not the first thing that comes into my head.
Right.
So I thought he gave a really strong performance as well, even though his character doesn't have an arc. His character is the same throughout. He has an identity. Even back, he's not happy with the fact that he's an accessory to Ken at the very beginning, even. Whereas his character is very on the same path. I still feel like Michael Cera is doing a great job.
He was the everyman in the movie. Like you always have the leads, they have the big story arcs. He's in the background. He knows he wants to get out of Barbie Land, but because he's not at the same level as the lead characters, he's not going to get out. And like
Right.
when he says when they decide that the mother and daughter decide they have to go back to Barbie Land, he says, I'm never going to get out of here. That's like the everyman experience. I'm never going to win.
Exactly.
So I appreciated that. And that's the kind of character I relate to in movies more
Yeah.
often than not. So he's the outsider.
He's your analog.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
I feel like Gloria is my analog more than anything. The mother, as it were.
Yeah.
And
That's
the
American
daughter.
Ferrera, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The daughter
who,
was interesting because she was
yeah.
good in the first part of the movie, but then she just turned into like nothing. Once she got into Barbie Land, like she had this really independent feminist outlook on the world, but as soon as she got into Barbie Land, she just turned into a kid. I'm going, that's
Agreed.
disappointing.
She was different in
Yeah.
the second half. I really enjoyed her attitude when she was confronted with things, and how she's the queen bee, but not the stereotypical queen bee of her school. You don't mess with her, but she's not the head cheerleader or whatever, which is the standard trope, is that the most popular, dating the quarterback, head cheerleader. Those are the girls you don't want to mess with. But she was like one of the misfits of her school, but you don't want to mess with her. And I love that about her, that she doesn't fall into that category of a normal, everyday teenager. And the two montages that Greta brings attention to, whereas one is where Barbie is seeing flashes of being played with. She thinks it's the daughter because of the perspective. And then they play those exact same themes, but from the other perspective of Gloria. And I really loved that. It struck me as a strong storytelling device, even before I watched the commentary, that, oh my goodness, we're seeing a whole different perspective to this. And it's part of that kind of puts me in line with those two, like an amalgam of those two characters is what I identify with. I'm snarky. I can be rude, I swear. And that's not who Gloria is, but her daughter is. And I feel like that. I also, one of the nits I have with her is she didn't have to work at Mattel. It's one of those, hey, it's a coincidence she also works at Mattel. She didn't have to work there. She could have been just a mother drawing concepts of these Barbies, and she didn't have to be a secretary there. But I understand they don't have to do any other establishing scenes. She can just be part of that main area. They don't have to pick another environment for her to be in.
And one of the things I liked about that is the idea that when she's giving ideas and the CEOs, that won't work, and someone's, oh, it'll sell. I love it.
Yeah.
Right?
As long as it sells. And he does that another time with okay, what is it? The dojo.
Yeah, the Ken, their version. Yeah.
Dojo. It's 3 different words for house, which I love.
Yeah.
Oh, Casa.
Yeah.
Something else. I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember either. Dojo Casa. Oh, what's the other thing?
Yeah.
Why am I not remembering it? Anyway, yeah, and the same thing goes there when he says, "Why are these selling?" And the guy goes, "No." He says, "Maybe we should take those off the market." And that same guy goes, "Oh, we'll make a lot of money." And he goes, "Okay, let's ship them out." He's the CEO that he doesn't really stick by his principles as long as it's making money, which is the standard here.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask also, because of all that, where do you fall in the uh, relating to issues with Gloria and her daughter? And this is because that's how I feel. I identify with those characters. I'm assuming you guys don't as much as I do, but that's an assumption. So, what do you guys think?
I'm not really sure what you're asking.
As in, you feel like Alan is your analog in the movie, right? So that's
Hmm.
who you identify with more.
Right.
So where do you place like Gloria and her daughter? Since where I identify with them, like you identify with Alan.
Identify with them because of your relationship with your mother, or just as a woman? Like I'm
No,
not,
just that's, I feel like that's more, I'm not Alan.
no.
My personality isn't Alan. And I feel like most women would identify with Gloria and her daughter. And I can see
Oh,
where
okay.
men would identify with one of the men in the film. So I want to know your perspective on how you feel about Gloria and her daughter, where I feel like I identify with them. Maybe you guys have a whole different perspective on
Okay, but
them.
I'm curious then. I'm sorry, Jesse, I'm just hogging, but do you identify more with the mother or the daughter?
Both.
Okay, that's
I
interesting.
would have to combine them into one
Okay.
person, I
All right.
think.
All right. Go ahead, Jesse.
So what's interesting is, at least I find it is, both Lou and I are fathers, but we are fathers of sons. And I can remember going to back when Toyland was a thing, and we would go over to the aisles would be there's the guy toys and so we went over, we're one of our good friends daughter was having a birthday and we're looking at it, so we're like, this is a whole nother world that we never explore. But I do get the idea of trying to connect with your child and trying to find something that interests them, that you can, where can you bond, right? What can you bond over? And we still do that sometimes. My son's now an adult and he's in his 30s, and there still are times when he will, hey, I want you to watch this, dad, and he has to be not careful, but he like, I won't waste your time unless I really think you would like this, or I need you to see this. And the same thing for me. I'm not going to waste your time, Chris. I'm not going to say, oh, you should really watch this show just because I enjoy it, because I don't, it would have to if you do it. So the idea of trying to connect, trying to do that, and you want your child to be proud of you. And in a lot of cases they are, but they don't know how to say it. And the same thing, you want to be proud of your child, but at times you don't know how to say it without coming across as condescending. Yeah, I thought that was a really very interesting dynamic. And as a side note, it's a Mojo Dojo Casa houses.
Thank you.
Thank you,
I
internet.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and riffing off that, not that anyone knows, but I don't have any children. So that may be why I feel like I identify more with an amalgam of those two characters instead of just identifying with the mother. So
Okay.
Yeah.
that might be my,
I definitely related more to the mother than the daughter, as I've already brought up my issues with the daughter and how she changed when she went into Barbie Land. But I think I just related more with the mother because she was, you know, I don't know, maybe half a generation behind me, but she grew up in that era. I don't know how big Barbie dolls are today in today's world. Are they as big as when we were
yes,
growing up? I don't know,
they're huge.
but I would just re I related more to that mother's memories of that toy because I'm at an age where I think back on shows that I used to like when I was a kid and stuff like Johnny Quest and Lost in Space and those kind of things. And Major Matt Mason, that was also a Mattel toy, stuff like that. So I related from her perspective. And the relationship between the mother and daughter was, I think, a pretty typical one that we see in movies and TV shows, much like with fathers and sons, where there's the independence of the child is butting heads against the parents' desire for them not to grow up, not intentionally, but it's just because they're trying to hold on to that relationship that they were so used to. So I could relate to the mother and daughter in that perspective. And um but I do think I related more to the mother, Gloria, than Sasha, because she was just seemed more closer to my mindset generationally in relation to pop culture and stuff like that. I don't think it changed. Don't think it would have changed too much if it would have had been a father and son relationship, because they would have had the same dynamics going on, butting heads against each other. So
Sure. Okay, great.
yeah,
Yeah, and by the way, you did answer my question. You got it
I got what?
completely. I just how you related to the character, that
Oh,
you related to her as a
okay,
parent.
okay.
I didn't elo I wasn't as eloquent as I would have liked to be. I'm gonna bring up two more points and then we'll wrap things up. One of them is, and I know you didn't like that it was a musical, but I want to know your feelings on the songs. There were songs that were background songs, and that's more what I want to talk about. Those are some big names. We had Lizzo, Billie Eilish, and Dua Lipa, and they were the songs like Pink in the background where Barbie's getting ready, and that it. So it wasn't like the typical musical number where I Am Ken was a definite like a musical type number.
Hmm.
Um, and I really love that they wrote these tongue-in-cheek kind of songs. If you listen to the lyrics of Pink behind what's going on, when Barbie is doing her Barbie thing and it's working, Pink is all happy and it talks about, and I'm talking about the song Pink, not the artist Pink. She didn't have anything to do with it. And then when things start malfunctioning, Lizzo's words change. Oh, it's cold. She's saying things that go with what Barbie's going through. So that means that it is written specifically for those scenes. The Billie Eilish song was already existing, but I love how it's used as a theme throughout the movie. They change it into instrumental versions to play over certain theme. The interesting thing about Dua Lipa, she was the part of the dance scene where the Barbies are all dancing. And she also played one of the Barbies, a background Barbie, which I loved as well, that she really wanted to be involved with it. All three of these recording artists were in wholeheartedly when they were approached to do a song for the movie. And I thought this was really awesome that they got these people to go in whole hog and maybe sing a song that was written for the film and specific to the film and maybe not their genre. Lizzo wouldn't sing, I don't know if one of her main songs, WAP, and I'm not going to say what it means, but she is a much dirtier singer than Happy Barbie. So yeah, what did you guys think of that kind of background music and things like Girls Just Want to Have Fun and some of the other music that was in it? Did you think it added to or took away, or did you have any feelings about it at all?
The Girls Want to Have Fun that's iconic, that song. So I could relate to that. But to be honest, most of the other music, while it definitely served its purpose, this is a generational thing. I don't know. You like listed all these artists off. I haven't got a clue who any of them are. So then when you don't have that connection, it's just, yeah, it's music. And yeah, I thought it was served the movie well, but I don't have that extra jolt of, what is it? The pleasure for dopamine or whatever that you would get
Well,
when you hear
yeah.
something like that. So it was okay. It definitely helped the story along, but except for when Girls Want to Have Fun, I didn't recognize them. The only person I recognize is Billie Eilish, but my Lord, her music is almost in every friggin' movie and TV show. That's the last season of True Detective used one of her songs as the theme song. So her, I'm getting a little tired of, to be honest, but nothing against the song. They used it properly. So yeah, the music was good. I just don't have that extra connection I think that younger viewers would have for that particular soundtrack.
Okay.
So I am angry at What Was I Made For because it beat out Bruce Springsteen's Addicted to
Oh,
Romance on the Golden Globe.
sorry.
No. Yeah, I think Lou said this really well for me. The the songs were okay, but they just didn't connect with me the way that often other soundtracks. For example, coming up in a week or so, I'm going to have a return guest, the set listing Bruce, and we're going to talk Sing Street. That's set in the UK. It's set in the 80s, and we're going to talk 80s soundtracks. And I really liked all those songs on that. And there have been other musicals where I adore songs, whether it's, Monty Python songs, or in other soundtracks. These didn't mean anything to me. Like when I was listening to Spamalot, I bought the Spamalot soundtrack and loved, adored. So these didn't. In fact, when I was watching the Oscars, I had it on delay. The only one I didn't skip through was the I'm Just Ken. And that's because I was just enjoying the almost tongue in cheek of this is how they used to do these production numbers on old time Oscars. And so I was appreciating that. Yeah, if we had to point to a great moment of music is when the mom and the daughter are riding together, the song's playing, and they both end up singing along because the mom's, I don't want to seem uncool to sing this long song. And then the daughter's, well, I like the song, but I don't want to look. And then they end up embracing it. And that's always, I think, a fun scene. It's a little bit of a trope that you'll see where, what was it? Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, where they end up getting, is that a Carpenter song or something?
I think so.
Yeah, and they end
up just being into it.
Yeah, they're just into it. So I love that scene about it.
That, by the way, that is Closer to Fine by the Indigo Girls.
Yeah.
One of my favorite duos of all time. I went to one of their concerts. I took my husband, and he felt a little out of place there. I have to say, more estrogen than testosterone in that audience. But
this was years ago. My good friend Rick had tickets to go see the Indigo Girls. His wife ended up not wanting to go. So Linda and I drove over. Linda and Jennifer stayed at their house. Rick and I went to see the Indigo Girls, which was fun. And I enjoyed the show a lot.
They're good.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Sad to say, Hazy Shade of Winter was the song that stuck out because I knew that song more than I did the others, but they were a great show.
And it's not even their song, which makes me sad. It's Bananarama.
Simon Garfunkel, yeah.
Oh, and Simon and Garfunkel, yeah. Yeah, and I recorded a version of one of their songs and played it at my wedding. Power of Two. So yeah, that's interesting as well. And I could mention other names that you might get. Wolfgang Van Halen was one of the artists that contributed. That would be Eddie Van Halen's son. Flea from, what is it, Red Hot Chili Peppers? Is that who he plays for? Sam Smith. Do you know Sam Smith?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. He's a
crooner,
I think that,
right?
yeah. And Matchbox 20, Rob Thomas, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So there are artists that jumped in as well that you guys would know. I think I just brought up the females that did major themes in the movie, but those other people, they contributed as well. I don't want to discount them. And also Push was a big song in this where the Kens, they decided to push out the Barbies. And so they picked up, that's Rob Thomas. Push. Okay. So we talked about the music. Let's go to one of my favorite things about this is the cultural references in the movie. I'm just going to mention a few. The beginning is a shot-for-shot remake, essentially, of 2001.
Yep, that was cool.
We have The Truman Show, which she alludes to, that the way that everything is painted, where near the end of the movie, when Truman rows out and bumps up against the backdrop, she wanted to model some of that on the Truman Show. A background thing that isn't mentioned in the commentary is that she told Margot to watch The Philadelphia Story, which is my favorite movie of all time. And it turned out that it's one of Margot's favorite movies as well. And so they bonded over the fact that they both love that movie. And she said, I want you to feel like Katharine Hepburn felt when she made The Philadelphia Story. So don't be her character, but try and feel how she felt. Because it's a similar type of role where she's discounted, but she's more than what people think she is. There was themes, obviously, of Clueless, Saturday Night Fever, The Matrix with the red shoe, blue shoe feeling. Mm-hmm. The Shining, they actually mention that you have your shining moment. And the mink coat, as you mentioned earlier, they mention The Godfather and the Snyder cut. Monty Python with the on fake horses.
Yep.
That was very funny.
West Side Story, as I mentioned earlier. Did you guys feel delighted that there were that many cultural references in it? Did they stick out to you? Was there anything that you loved seeing that related to other media? So whoever wants to.
Yeah, I thought the 2001 opening was pretty good. I thought that was really well done. And all the other ones you mentioned were good too. But this is the type of movie that is perfectly set up to do that kind of stuff. So I was expecting it to do it, and it did it. And it never really it never bothered the flow of the movie. So it was incorporated. They were all incorporated well. The opening stuff with 2001 is probably the most blatant. And I was tried to match it shot for shot, especially that famous jump cut from throwing something up in the air and then it turning into a spaceship. That was really well done. But the other ones were much more subtle or better integrated into the movie. So I appreciated them all, and I definitely don't think any of them hurt the movie.
Awesome. Yeah, because sometimes they can stick out like a sore thumb, right?
Yep.
Yeah, sometimes it's okay. I know you really wanted to get the scene in, but I don't know if it serves. Obviously Monty Python, the fake horses is cool. I was, because the new Doctor, I was wanting to have him more of a role because I was looking forward to. I have not watched Sex Education yet, so I wanted to see more of it.
He's good in that. He's very good.
I've heard that he's very good at that. I thought it was very neat to see. There have been many people, especially speaking of, we talked about Damon Lindelof when we did HBO's The Watchmen. He talked about he was more Sid than Andy on Toy Story. And I love that idea that the what did they call her? Outcast Barbie? The exceptional
Barbie.
Barbie.
Yeah.
Right. I think that was really fun. And that she still shows, right? Like where they had painted her and colored her was nice.
So good.
Yeah. And then I do think that one of the keys that makes this work is Helen Mirren being the narrator. She has a great voice, and she doesn't take herself too serious. Note to editors, don't cast Margot when you're trying to say I'm unattractive, right? Then, and my favorite trope is when she takes her glasses off, right? And now you're
beautiful, right?
And because that is so many of those where we see that montage, and she took off her glasses and got contact lenses, and all of a sudden, I didn't see
She's
that
the most beautiful.
Yeah, I didn't see that everything. So I thought that was pretty funny. And I will disagree. I loved the ending. Lou, you talked about. I thought it was a perfect, because this is their way of saying she's a real girl, has become a real boy. That Barbie has become Barbara, and she is now real. And that's why it was so important, because earlier, I have no vagina. I have no penis. So I liked that ending. I did not see it coming. And when it did, I thought, okay, that's pretty funny.
I hated that line. I think that was a terrible line to end the movie on, but that's just me.
Oh, no,
I was
that's fine.
I'm halfway between you guys.
Yeah.
There's much
I get the
much
point
better
of
ways
it.
to find out that you're a real
Right.
human than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
I
just think
I was
they're riffing off the earlier
I
beat.
get that, but it's just a
Yeah.
terrible line to end a movie on. And I can't agree on that point at all.
Okay, so I want to mention a few things that we don't really have to discuss, but if you guys have any thoughts on them, some of the trivia about the movie. As in real life, Barbie is 23% bigger in proportion to everything, like the backdrop, all the beach toys. She's about a fourth bigger in proportion to those things than we would be. And it's like that in real life. She's bigger than, look at your background, Lou, how tall she is in that seat of the car. We don't sit up that tall in a car. At her house, the ceiling is very low. The mirror is
I
fairly small. I
I
mean,
never noticed it.
yeah, and you're not supposed to,
Okay.
but she did that on purpose because it's like that with real Barbies. They're also
Okay.
slightly bigger. Simu Liu, who was the other rival Ken, when they were doing some physicality on the set to prove that they could dance or whatever, he did a backflip, and Ryan Gosling was pissed off that he was that athletic, and that's where they got the idea to make him Ryan's rival
Hmm.
in the movie. So that actually came from that. Oh, what's her name? Hold on a minute. Weird Barbie.
Kate McKinnon.
What's her name? Yes, Kate McKinnon is actually a friend of Greta Gerwig's, and she was very excited and didn't want to be a regular Barbie. So they created that for her. And it really added a lot of dimension. I thought that she was this weird Barbie that was someone in your life that's done that to one of their toys. To have her be that in the Barbie land, that everything kind of translates over. If it happens to you in real life, it happens to you in Barbie land.
Question.
Yeah.
You've both listened to the commentary. Did they ever make any reference to the fact that Kate McKinnon to me looked like Phyllis Diller? Oh, okay.
I didn't, but
Because that looks like Phyllis Diller.
yeah, the way her hair was cut. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how Barbie looks when it's cut
Yeah.
too, because her hair sticks out.
It's very Toy Story-esque.
Oh yeah, with the kid that.
Yeah.
And I have to mention also that I think Toy Story is the quintessential movie that makes a movie about toys successful.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah.
if you don't like Toy Story, you're dead to me. Seriously,
Yeah.
there's
Yep.
something to love about that movie for everyone, I think.
Yep.
So yeah, there's a lot of little things in this movie. Also, and I don't know that it makes a difference, but one of the Barbies is a trans actor, and I love that they were included in the movie without an overt mention
Mm-hmm.
to it. And also the overweight Barbie, which I love because that line does exist. And to have her play one of the main Barbies, I thought was really cool. Issa Rae was great in her role as the president Barbie. Just a lot of little details that we don't really have to discuss, but I wanted to at least point them out. So
I'm really glad you suggested listening to the commentary. And the thing I wish HBO would do differently, when you add subtitles, they give you the subtitles of the commentary, not the movie. And I
right.
wish that if I had a choice, I would have had movie dialogue subtitles while I'm listening to the commentary
Yeah.
to follow a little bit more. But one of the things she mentioned is you see there's no liquids in Barbie Land. So that's
Right.
why when she actually drinks something in the real world, she's, what is this?
Yeah.
And then the way that they decided, she talks a lot about what are special effects, what are practical effects, what are digital. And the thing, like when you open the refrigerator, as in the real Barbie world that we have, there are some that are stickers that are just not, and there's other three-dimensional things. You have both. You might be able to pull out something, but there's other things that are just stickers or pictures of food that's in the refrigerator. I did not catch that when I watched the movie the first time. And after mentioning it, I could not stop seeing that whenever
Right.
they did these things. And that was, I thought, pretty interesting. And the idea that um, you're just a little bit off kilter because of the connection you have with the mom character was just really nice. Yeah, I don't know if I'll go back and see this a lot, but I loved Oppenheimer and I haven't watched it again since it's been on different digitals. Partly this is just because there's so much other new stuff coming all the time
Sure.
that it almost feels like I'm being unproductive by rewatching something I love when I'm not finding the next thing that I might or love on that's sitting there waiting to happen.
Yeah, I'm probably not gonna rewatch it unless it's in the far future. I just wanted to talk about it because not only is it different, but it does have that kind of fantasy-esque quality to it, which kind of
Yeah,
falls
Got a
into
bit of
our
a Wizard of Oz
purview.
vibe to it,
Yeah,
yeah,
very
it
much
does.
so.
And I think they wanted that.
for sure.
And I will say, I think Will Ferrell's really good in this. And
It's okay.
I thought all the acting was good. And I do understand a little bit that there's always that controversy when a movie is nominated for Best Picture, but the director doesn't get that.
Hmm.
And I was a little surprised because, like it or not, it's a really complicated, interesting movie that I think is worth someone getting a chance to see.
Yeah, it rises above its title,
Yeah,
as
I
it
agree.
were. If this wasn't a Barbie movie and they made it some other thing, I
Yeah,
think it would have been more respected. I wanted people to see it that wouldn't attempt to watch it.
yeah,
I almost fell into that category
yeah,
where I didn't care about it. And then once I watched it, it was different for me. It had much more meaning. It was a deeper movie. The whole thing with Rhea Perlman talking about how she invented Barbie and what it was for. And I just
yeah.
thought it was deeper than what it appeared to be. And
I
Lou,
agree.
you mentioned how much money it made, and I feel like that's an even bigger feat because it opened the same day as Oppenheimer, which also made a boatload of money. Sometimes two movies open that could both make a lot of money, but one of them doesn't because the other one does. And in this case, they were both strong enough at the box office to not compete with each other, but do well on their own, even though they open together, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think that's part of the brilliance of the campaign. That the idea they embrace,
Barbieheimer.
yeah, embrace the two films. You don't want to miss this. You want to go, and the idea of both being successful because they are very two different films.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. On
Yeah.
two
Just
different ends of the spectrum.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I would like to mention the two things that I don't think worked quite as well in this movie that as they should have. The first is the how the Barbies handle the re-attainment of their power and turn
Yeah,
it back into a. I thought that there should have been like the life lesson learned that it should have been a much more evenly matched society. Like they offer them Kens a couple of jobs on the lower circuit judges or whatever. I
Hmm.
thought that was like you're just restoring the world to the way it was before, and the inequalities are still existing. I think the message should have been there that they had all learned enough that they would have been a much more democratic or equality based society than what they ended up with. I think that was a missed opportunity. And the other thing I thought that they flubbed was the scene that you mentioned. I thought Rhea Perlman did a great job as the creator of Barbie. And then she's going to impart into Barbie what it is to be human. But in the montage that they showed, they never showed like was expecting that they were going to show the life of maybe Rhea Perlman from birth to death. But they stopped like in the middle, and I'm going, but Barbie doesn't know what death is. Like that, I thought that was like they talked about it a little bit, but she never really was shown to experience what death was like. And I thought that was another big missed
Mm.
opportunity about what it was about to be human. So I don't know if it got cut for runtime or whatever, but that to me was the whole point of her journey was to become human. So that Pinocchio moment wasn't there, I guess you could say. So I really thought they flubbed it on those two fronts in the back half of the movie, and that for me, those are my expectations, and maybe they didn't even want to go there. I don't know, but they talked about death at least. The first point I brought about making the society more equal, is my own wish, but I thought they really dropped the ball on the whole what it means to be human montage. It's difficult to do in such a short time period too, but that was not as, I don't know. I just thought that was a missed opportunity there. So those are the things that really brought down the third act for me. And that
I get
last
it.
line, I hated that last line. Oh God, I hated that last line.
And speaking as a woman, I also hated that last line. I'm glad
That's
someone liked it though,
that's not
Jesse.
a measure of what it is to be human. Like I just don't
No,
get it. And then maybe
being
that's a woman
reproductive.
thing. I don't know, but yeah, that was just
As someone who doesn't have kids, being reproductive doesn't make you a woman.
yeah.
So yeah, that rubbed me the wrong way a little bit.
And
And I
I will
go
not
ahead.
debate too much. I will say I don't think it's about being reproductive. It's that she's fully functional, and that's what
Right.
she is, a real person. That's
Yeah,
Like
but there's
like
better
Data.
ways
yeah,
to do that.
yeah,
Data is
yeah.
also fully functional.
And I think for all the flaws of
She
the
should have gone to an
bicentennial,
orphanage and adopted a child.
yeah, the bicentennial man is a wonderful story from Isaac Asimov. Mediocre movie,
Hmm.
but the idea that to become fully human is to embrace death. And this goes back to our 12 Monkeys discussion, where we say, if there isn't an ending, can you really savor what is happening? Yeah.
Hmm.
You're going to have to worry about what do we do, like how deep do we go into this movie, with the understanding that we are also going for we do want the kid audience to be going to this. But yeah,
Mommy,
they
what's
had
a
to go a fine
gynecologist?
line. Yeah,
Sorry,
I
yeah,
get that.
I'm just
yeah,
No,
showing my age. I don't know.
yeah. Hmm.
I, I'm not quite as old as you, and I'm in the same ballpark. I'm old. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, I to sum up everything, I think this is a movie worth seeing. I'm glad that Lou enjoyed it. I was worried a little bit that Lou would hate it. Oh no, it's not that. I just didn't think it was your cup of tea. That's all.
Yeah,
It's not that
less
you're
singing, less
grumpy or anything.
dancing. Yeah, no,
Right.
just not my
Uh,
thing.
and I feel whatever I pick is a letdown, and it's not
Oh, no,
because of you guys or anything,
that's the
but
main reason that I like doing
um,
this because you pushed me out of my envelope.
Yeah,
well,
that's
that's
what
good.
I
Yeah,
do,
for sure.
because I wouldn't have seen Devs. I just would not have watched it, but by you bringing it up, and I just love Devs. So yeah,
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
I'm
yeah,
glad. I am
yeah.
truly glad. And I hope that I'm gonna retweet this when you put it out and everything because I really do feel like it's a movie worth watching. And it's not for everyone, obviously, but there are some themes in it that are surprising. And I do think that it has a message it's a good message as well. So,
And to sum her up, I feel if we go watch a Mario Brothers movie, that could be just fun, right? It
yeah, there's
is
no
just
message there.
there's no message. We're doing a fun movie based on a video game. Or it could be the overly sentimental of the, why am I drawing a blank? Where we had the video game where he smashes things,
Hmm.
ends up saving the princess. I can't remember
Wreck-It
Yeah,
Ralph.
Yeah, Wreck-It
Wreck-It
Ralph,
Ralph.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like over it. This was, I think, a really nice, they found a middle ground in telling an entertaining story, but also making a point. So that's very cool.
Thank you. That's
Yeah.
great. Any last comments, Lou? You said you're two nits, but
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it. So well, it
Awesome.
was good.
Yeah.
It was good. I just think that except for a couple of flubs, it could have been a really good movie. Instead, it's just a good movie.
I'm really glad that I decided to pick this. I was vacillating between two different things. So I went with the one that I think was less conventional than what we usually talk about. And I'm very happy about it. Yeah. uh, as a consensus, I think we give it a hesitant thumbs up, a
Yeah,
regular thumbs up.
I think it's worth the time, but I don't want to damn it with faint praise. I think it's interesting. I think it's really interesting visually, and I think it's a good storyline. And if you like this kind of music, you're going to like the soundtrack.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's good.
So I'll say thanks to everyone for listening, and I'm gonna pass it over to you two guys to tell them where they can find us, you slash whatever. Jesse, can you give our email address?
I sure can. We can be found at jklb5podcast@gmail.com. Ignore just the B5 podcast part of it because that's it.
Put it in there.
Yes, it does.
Because,
But yeah, but don't go, oh no, they won't get this. No, this will get it to us. You can talk about any of your things. If you have suggestions on things you would like us to cover, I would really love to hear that.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Because currently we're doing a round table. We just round robin of picking who it is. It is still Karen's turn.
Oh, no, it's Lou's turn.
Oh, okay, it's Lou's turn.
You
So
sure
we'll come to that in a minute.
Just a one-off episode, Karen.
Yeah.
So you don't
No,
want to
I'm
pick something
good.
else? Okay.
Okay.
Why don't we all do a one-off?
Okay.
And
that
then we
sounds
can
good.
go to like a limited
Oh,
series
okay.
or
Then I'll
something.
have to
Is that cool?
change my pick. Yep.
No,
Or do you want me to pick another one off? Okay, this is behind the scenes.
Yeah,
We can talk
cut
about this
yeah.
later.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is our email address. I am at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter and would love for you to follow me there. Jesse Jackson on Facebook. I am continuing to talk music on Set Lusting Bruce. Coming up, fingers crossed, I am scheduled to talk to someone on recording this on tonight that is a DFW icon. He is, and hopefully his name is Eric Nidell. He is the longtime voice of the World Championship Texas Rangers. And he is also a massive music fan. And I ran into him Friday night. We were at a small club seeing a singer-songwriter called Lily Hyatt, who is John Hyatt's daughter. And I said hi to him, gave him a card, and he emailed me on Saturday saying, I'd love to be on your podcast. When can
cool.
we? And
Well,
so
there you
now
go.
we're
That's
recording
great.
tonight.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's
Look
going
at
to be
you.
a lot of fun. Yeah. People like to do that. And coming up, we are continuing to do classic episodes of Doctor Who on Next Stop Everywhere. And we have arranged our schedule that when in May, the new Who shows up on Disney Plus, Charles and I will be talking every episode. And there is always an open seat for Karen to join us. And Lou, who doesn't like Doctor Who, you can still come in if you champ one and visit. Lou, how about you?
You could find our podcast on YouTube under Lou's Reviews. That's Lou with an apostrophe S. And beyond our JKLMedia podcast, our flagship show is our rewatch or watch of the Babylon 5 science fiction series. We're up to season 4 now, so check that out. We've also done other things such as We Are the World, Watchmen, 12 Monkeys, Tragically Hip, Springsteen, Western Stars, Dark Matter, Identity Crisis, The English, Station 11, Dev, and I think my personal favorite so far, Midnight Mass. Also, you can find my episodes of writer interviews that I do, as well as Stephen King podcasts. And on Twitter, you can find me at Lou W. Sytsma, Sytsma.
Awesome. Okay, so as far as I go, I am at Oliveria on the various social medias. I've posted 3 TikToks of my cat because that seems to be interesting, and they've actually gained some traction, which I find very strange. But so I'm at Oliveria, all of those places, and I have a blog called alliestuff.com, and there's a bunch of links there on my landing page that you might want to check out. So with that, I will bring to a close our Barbie discussion, and I am so thankful you guys are my friends and that we get to talk about stuff like this all the time. because talking to my husband about all this stuff will get old real quick.
Amen.
So
I
I'll
understand.
throw it back to you, Jesse, to close us out.
All right, please go to iTunes, rate and review us. Anywhere else you get your podcast, please give us some 5 stars and some love. Subscribe. Share the podcast with someone you feel would enjoy listening to it. That makes us always happy. I will echo Karen's kind thoughts. This is always a joy on Sundays. I appreciate you, Lou. I appreciate you, Karen. I appreciate you, listeners. Good luck. Be happy. Be safe. And we'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Good.
And see.
The proceeding has been a JKL Media production.